Hey guys, hope you're well. So I'm starting a series on basically how to program Radiomaster TX16S. It's an absolutely brilliant transmitter. I love it. I've had it for about a month now. And yeah, I just really like it. It's just got so much functionality. You can do so much with it. And I've learned a lot over the last month, and I just want to pass this on to you. Now, there are tons of videos out there, so please, don't just watch my videos, go out there and watch other people and what they say. But you're going to find that a lot of them are very similar anyway, but it's good to get different perspectives. Now, I'm going to do a series, and this series is basically going to show you how to set this up, how to set up a flybarless helicopter on the Radiomaster TX16S. And then we're going to also look at the Nexus XR flybarless unit and how to set that up and how to program it so you can actually fly a flybarless helicopter. I was lucky. I set this up on my TRX 550L, and it flew great from day one. So hopefully if you have a similar size helicopter and you copy the settings, it should fly perfectly. But in this particular video, I just want to focus just on the kind of the menus in the Radiomaster TX16S, and just sort of the basics and an overview of this transmitter. So the first thing is you have a port up here where you have a USB, I think it's USB-C that you plug in. That wire should come with the transmitter, and basically that is used for you to access your SD card and to plug it into the computer if you're doing updates or restoring any data or anything like that. Okay, now on the other side down here you have another USB cable or port, and that is basically for charging. But what I found is it doesn't actually charge properly when you use that cable. Okay, so it doesn't fully charge it. It's not very good. It doesn't really work very well. You also have your SD card here, and I believe the maximum size SD card you could have is a 32 gigabyte. So I don't believe you could have anything bigger than that. Now, what I do to charge actually is I just take the battery out and I do a balance charge. This is a 2-cell LiPo battery, so I do a balance charge and I charge it that way, and it charges absolutely fine with no problems. Now this video is specifically about, or this series is going to be specifically about the ExpressLRS and how to set that up. So it's not about how to set up any of the sort of 4-in-1 or anything like that. This is specifically for ExpressLRS. Okay, so let's have a look at the transmitter. So I'm going to switch it on by just pressing and holding until this goes blue. Now it's gone blue, I let go, and I've got a nice splash screen that I made myself. Put that down. Okay, so what you have here is you have basically two buttons across here. This button, if I click on it, this takes me to my system menu. And what you could see there is you could see these two ExpressLRS and Rotaflight 2. Now these are actually called Luas, and they're just Lua scripts. When I bought this transmitter, it had tons of Lua scripts, which I didn't need. So I removed everything and I just kept ExpressLRS, and then I downloaded separately Rotaflight 2. I just didn't want my screen clogged up, and this is why I deleted these extra scripts. Now you could use this to sort of move across. It's also touch screen, so I could move across here the menus just by touching. Now if I click on this button, that is a return button, so it takes me back. If I click back on this and I want to move across, I can use this button to navigate my menus. If I want to go back, I could use this button to navigate the menus. Okay, now the other thing you could do is if you click on Edge TX on the corner, you get this pop-up, and I could go to radio settings, and that takes me back to the same menu. So you've got two ways. You can either click on here and click return, or you could click on Edge TX, click radio settings, and it takes you back to the same. Now actually the very first thing you need to do before you do anything is you need to upgrade your software. Okay, because you don't know when this was manufactured, when it was made, and therefore best before you do anything at all is upgrade your software. So if you go to the information, that little eye icon there, it actually tells you that the VERS, that's the version. So I'm basically on v2.11.3 Jolly 1. Now, this is actually the latest version at the moment, so I don't need to update mine, but you'll probably find that yours is going to be on a much older version, and then you need to update it. So let's have a look at how you update it. Okay guys, so the first thing we need to do is we need to plug in our transmitter. So my transmitter's on, so I'm gonna switch it on. Okay, I'm going to plug it in with a USB-C cable into here. Okay, and then I'm going to get this pop-up menu with 3 options: joystick, storage, or USB serial. So I'm going to click on USB serial. Okay, now on my screen it should recognize it, and if you actually go to device manager, it should automatically install the hardware, and you should be able to see it here under other devices in device manager. Now I actually had a problem where it didn't actually install the hardware, and I couldn't see it at all, which was a bit of a problem. So there is a workaround, and the workaround is if you go to this website, okay, zagit.akao.ie, and you download, if you scroll down here and you download that Zagdig 2.9 and basically run it, what will happen is it should recognize it, okay, and then all you have to do is you say install driver, and then what will happen is that will install the driver and it will then see it in here. Now hopefully you don't have to do that, and it will automatically the driver will automatically get installed when you plug it in, but sometimes it doesn't happen, and it certainly hasn't happened with me. So this is why I had to do this workaround, find it on here and say install driver. But once you've done that, you basically go to this website, buddy.edgetx.org, okay, and in here you basically go EdgeTX, you basically have your firmware version that you want to go to. So you go to the latest one, so this is my latest one, but mine was really old. I was like somewhere around here, but anyway, get the latest one selected. Then you come here and you select your transmitter, so Radiomaster TX16S, and then you click on flash via USB. Okay, say add new device. So now we can see the Radiomaster there. Say connect. Okay, then you basically click next and you click I believe flash, and what that will do is that will wipe out your current version of the software and install the new one. But I'm not going to do that because I've already have it, everything set up, so I don't want to mess anything up. But it's as simple as that. You literally click on the next button, and then I think there's a checkbox that says override or something along those lines, and then click on flash, and that will literally override the software you have. It will wipe it completely and install the new one. So it should be as simple as that. That's the first thing you need to do before you do anything else. Okay guys, so now let's go back to the transmitter and have a look at what other menu options are there in the system menu. Okay guys, so what we need to do now is I'm going to click on here, go to radio settings, and if I go directly to this little eye icon, I could see that I have, or you should see that you have the latest version now, which is v2.11.3. Okay, now let's have a look at these system options and what they do. So I'm going to look at ExpressLRS, so I'm going to start by clicking on that. That's going to load it. And just a few things that you need to make sure you do. Packet rate, that should be on 333 Hz. And telemetry ratio, I've got it as 132. We're going to be using that later. On switch mode, 8 channel, that's what I want. And then model match, I got ID 1 because I'm already connected to or already bound to a receiver. Now, if you want to bind the receiver, you go into this script and you simply click bind on here, and that will bind. I will actually do a video on how to bind, so I'll show you that kind of in real life and how to do that. But that's pretty much all you need to know in this menu, and I'm just going to click exit and exit here. Now, the next menu over here is the little SD card. So this has all your folders there in your SD card, and there's just a couple of cool things. So firstly, images. You've got all these images that came with the software, but you can actually add your own images here. And basically what you do is you would go into here, okay, plug in your USB, and this time you go to USB storage. Okay, now what that will do is that will then open the SD card on your PC, and you'll see that, and then you could just go into these folders and add and remove any pictures that you want. So if we go back in here, okay, so you'll see all these folders, images, etc. You could go into your PC and you'll see all these images, and you can add and remove ones as you want. So if I scroll down, now I've got a splash screen, I've got a personalized splash screen, which is my family here. I've done that. If you want to have your own personalized splash screen, you have to name it splash.png. Okay, the file has to be a PNG file. Now I've saved the original splash screen as splash_orig, and that is the original splash screen that came with my Radiomaster. But I prefer having my own splash screen, so I've added it. Now I can't remember off the top of my head what the size of the splash screen has to be, but I will put that in big writing so you could see in the video. Now the other thing is your models as well. You could take pictures of your models and add them, and again I can't remember what the size is. It has to be a specific size, but I will find it out and I will put that on here as well, so you could add pictures for your models as well. So quite cool, some nice features there that you could add. Nice touch to your transmitter. Okay, the other thing is scripts. You could see the scripts that you have in here. So I've got an RF2 script, and you've got different folders, but I'll go into that in more detail in other videos. Okay, next thing is settings. So here is where you need to set your date and your time. So I've got my date and my time set here, and that's fine. A few things on here. Sound is quite important. Mine was, I think it was set to half volume or something like that. I've set it up to full because actually the volume for the Radiomaster is not very loud. So I've put mine to the loudest. Everything else you don't really need to look at or to touch unless you want to play around with that, but it really isn't sort of a big thing. Themes is quite nice. So I've got mine on hand painted sky. Again, there's loads of different themes there that you could look at and you could choose from. I think that is, I'm trying to think, that's the default, the TX default, but I've got mine, hold on, I think you have to click on it, TX default there. So that's what the default is, but I've actually got the hand painted sky. So you could just play around with that and have a look at that. Next thing is global functions. I'm not going to get into that now. I've got one thing set in global functions, but again, I'm not going to get into that now. Then you have your trainer. I'm not going to get into that. And here you have sort of the battery meter range. So I'm running a 2-cell LiPo, and I've got my range 6.4 to 6.8. Now there's a couple of things you need to know here. One of them, or a few things actually, the ADC filter, you want that to be switched off. If that is switched on, if you're flying helicopters. Okay, so this series is about helicopters, so you need to switch it off. But it's something to do with filtering. I don't really understand it, but I've been recommended that this has to be off if you're flying helicopters. If you're flying planes, you could leave it on. You could also switch it on and off per model. So this is a global off for all models, but then you could go into each individual model and switch it on if you want. Now, the internal RF type, you need it to be CRSF. Okay, this is because we're using ExpressLRS. And then if we scroll down a bit more, everything else in here is fine, I believe. Should be no problems there. So yeah, that should all be okay. And then obviously the final one is your version of the transmitter, which you could just leave. You don't really need to do anything with that. Okay, so now we go back. Now, one thing on this menu that I actually didn't mention, which is really, really important to do actually. I'm ready. So when you go to this menu, you'll be right at the top. So if you scroll to the bottom and you click on calibration, you have to calibrate your sticks. Okay, it's really, really important to do that. If you don't calibrate your sticks, you're going to have problems. It's very, very easy to do. Okay, so all you're going to do is you're going to click enter, which is basically press that button. It will then tell you to center all your sticks. So you center your sticks, and then it's going to ask you to move the sticks to all the different directions. So I'm not going to do it, but basically click calibration, click enter. It will tell you to center your sticks. So center your stick as best as you can. Click enter again, and then all you have to do is just move your sticks like that, and do the same there, forward, backwards, okay, and back to center. And then you click enter again, and that's done. It's literally as simple as that. Just follow the instructions, and it's super simple. Now, to check that it's calibrated correctly, what you want to do is go back to your main menu, double click on here, okay, and then you come to this. Or the other thing you could do is you could again click on HTX and click on channel monitor. So that's another way to get into the same menu. And then you could check here. So this is my aileron channel 1. Now yours won't say AIL, or channel 2 won't say elevator. I've named these, so yours will literally say channel 1, channel 2, channel 3, etc. But channel 1 should be your ailerons, so make sure that if you do that, you get 100% and 100%. Okay, same with the elevator, 100% negative, 100% positive. Same with your throttle or collective. I want minus 100, okay, positive 100, and then depends where you've set it. You know, that's about in the middle, which is fine. And then finally your rudder, okay, is also going 100%. So that's something really important that you need to do to make sure that your sticks are calibrated. So if you come to here and then you do this, and once your stick is all the way to the end, let's say you're at 95% or 90%, or basically anything that's not 100%, you've not done it correctly. So you need to go back to your radio settings. Okay, go back to here, go back down to your calibration and redo the process. All right, but it should be, so I'm going to double click, but you should be fine. I had no problems calibrating it. Everything worked exactly from the first time, so you shouldn't have a problem doing that. But make sure you do that. It's really, really important. You can't miss doing that. Okay, guys, let's move on. To get into the individual models, you click on MDL. Okay, that will take you there. Or you could also click on HTX there, and you could say either manage models, or actually you click model settings, and that model settings is the equivalent of MDL. Okay, so now you've gone to here. Now here is where you could give your model a name. So I've got model name, I've got a name there. You could here select an image. So I've selected my TX550L, so that's the image I want to associate with this model. Now a couple of things here in internal RF. You want to make sure that the mode is CRSF, which it should be by default because this is what you have in your settings. Status should be 33 Hertz, which is what you have. And then you've got a receiver ID. Normally that would be 0 until you bind to a receiver. Once you bind to a receiver, that receiver ID is going to be unique. Then I have a timer set up here, so I've got a timer, and we'll go into that in more detail another time. But the other thing you need to be aware of is in the enable features. Okay, if you're going to be using custom scripts, you need to switch that to on. By the moment, I have that switched off. in other ADCF filter, I've got to global. So this is what I was talking about. You could set that per model. And again, here I've got it global, which means it's switched off. If I wanted to switch it on, I could switch it on and off, but global basically means it's off. We've gone into enable features, sorry, yeah, and pre-flight checks. So this is basically when you switch it on, and when you switch on your transmitter, do you want to have any warnings? So basically what I'm saying here is I want to have a warning if my SA switch is not down, okay? So if this switch SA is in a position that's not down, I will get a warning. Same with my SF, which is that one. If that's up, I'm going to get a warning. And SG, which is this one here, if this is not in this up position, so if it's in this position, I will get a warning. So this is basically what I'm saying here. With the white, it basically means I'm not going to be getting any warnings on these switches. These are the only 3 switches that I am interested in, and I will get a warning if it's not set to these values. So if I switch this off and I say put this up like that, and I switch on,
welcome to HTX. Switch warning.
it tells me my switch warning. So it says the SA switch should be at position down. So if I now put it on position down, then everything works fine. Okay. Right, so let's go back into here. So I think there was something else I wanted to show you in the system menu, and it was, I believe it was under settings. Yeah, so in here there's a couple of things I want to show you under settings, which I forgot, so apologies about that. You got your splash screen. How long do you want your splash screen to appear for? So I've got 6 seconds. Startup sound I've got on. Power off delay, that's really important. You need to make sure that's not on 0. If that's on 0, it means that the minute you touch this, it's going to switch off, and you don't want that, because if you're accidentally trying to trim or do anything, not that you would trim when you fly in a helicopter, but just in general, if you accidentally touch that and that's set to 0, it's going to switch off. So I've got mine set to 2 seconds, which means I have to press and hold for 2 seconds before it switches off. Also in here, you want your default channel order to be AETR. That stands for aileron, elevator, throttle, and rudder. Okay, so this is what you need to have it on. And I fly mode 2, so I've got mode 2, which means elevator on here, aileron on here, or this is my cyclic. I've got my rudder and my throttle, or my collective and my tail if I'm flying a helicopter. So yeah, that's something that you need to be aware of as well. Okay guys, so this is an overview of the menus, how to navigate the system menus, the model menu, and we're going to get into more detail on how to actually create a model in a different video. But this hopefully gives you an overview, and hopefully you've learned how to update the software and just how to navigate your way around. Okay guys, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Leave a comment, subscribe, and have a good day.